So to begin, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Football.
Anything specific?
I think playing with my dad in the garden.
Can you describe your childhood in one word?
Good. Free. Free.
Can you describe the impact of what you do?
No. Yeah, it's difficult. I like to encourage people to travel. I hope that's my impact. I hope people step outside their comfort zones a bit more.
What do romantic relationships represent to you?
Free to be open with the person, but also stable and secure enough that you can do that together.
What's the one thing you won't accept in people around you?
Lying.
What's something that you want other people to know about you?
I think the first thing that came to my mind is how hard I work. I don't know why, but yeah, it's the first thing I thought of so people know that I put in the effort.
When you look back on your life, what would you say has been your lowest moment?
Probably a part of the last couple of years.
What's the one change you would like to see in the world?
More openness, more honesty, less constrictions, whether that's borders or regulations or the way people are to each other, just more openness and freedom.
What's the most frequent lie that you tell the people?
Subscribe for more videos. 'Cause they don't happen very often these days.
Subscribe, but they ain't coming. And finally, if anything, what would you like to get out of this interview?
I think it's just a good chat. I think to sit down and have a nice chat for an hour, as long as it is, and delve into some things is helpful.
Awesome. And we're live.
I've been a travel YouTuber for the last 9-10 years now. My mum and dad split when I was around 6. When I actually think of my childhood, I don't think of that. I think of how nice it was to have two separate homes. I was watching all these people like Fun for Louie and like Ben Brown and these like OG YouTubers.
How do you hype yourself to that point where it's like, I'm going to quit my job?
Once you decide this, set a date and then do it no matter what.
Were you afraid going to North Korea?
It's one that I didn't tell my parents about until I was just about to go in.
One of the big things in the world right now is there's a lot of lonely people who are stuck by themselves. I'm just wondering if actually travel might be the best remedy to that.
People get very entrenched in their cliques and they get very comfortable, and that they don't really see making friends or meeting other people as a big priority. I remember someone saying to me 5 or 6 years ago that you can't stick at things. The next part of the journey, which is hopefully going to every country and space.
You're gonna need a few different wardrobes. Hello mate, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thank you. So we've just done the 10 questions in the dark. So to begin with, please can you introduce yourself for the listeners?
Sure, I'm Jord, Jordan Simons. I've been a travel YouTuber and content creator for the last 9-10 years now almost, and living in Bali here with my good friend Harry.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, Jordy, I've been looking forward to doing this with you because you're someone who's achieved a pretty cool lifestyle, one that not many people get to enjoy. So I'm really curious to find out the sort of journey you've been on to get there and the mindset that it sort of takes. But let's get stuck straight into it. Your earliest childhood is football with your dad. Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about that?
When I was a kid, football was the only thing I wanted to do. I wanted to be, like a lot of people in England, a professional footballer. I remember just spending every second that I could playing football in the garden, and it was also what my dad loved as well. So I remember going to watch him playing football in Sunday League or whatever, and that was kind of how we had our relationship. It was just football all the time. And yeah, I think that's why it's the first thing that comes to my mind. I always grew up watching Chelsea, going to Chelsea games. I grew up
Chelsea.
Yeah, I grew up playing football for teams and in school and whatever. And it didn't work out. I didn't become a professional footballer, and my passions moved on to other stuff. But for my whole childhood, I was just football crazy.
Yeah. How close did you get?
I don't know. I'd like to say closer than it probably actually was.
We all like to say that.
Trials for West Ham, trials for Chelsea.
Yeah.
No, but not really.
Okay, fine.
No, I was in Luton Town, but in their centre of excellence up until I was about 16, and then it was county and like semi-pro from there. So I was never like right on the cusp of being full pro, but I was playing to a decent enough level.
Yeah. And do you still play now?
No, I try to, and each time I do, my knee just gives way.
Oh, God, okay.
I've done my ACL twice, the cruciate ligament. I just snapped playing football. And yeah, since then, I can't really play anymore. I'm like 33 now, so it's probably retirement age anyway.
Well, that's true. So you describe your childhood in general as good and free. I know you have this very free sort of attitude towards life now as well. So I'd love to hear more about that. Can you tell me about like your parents, where you grew up and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, actually, my mum and dad split when I was around 6. So I had 2 houses and I always split between the 2 of them. But my dad lived in Milton Keynes, if anyone knows Milton Keynes, represent. And then my mum lived in a village just like, I don't know, about 20 minutes outside. And I just loved it because at the time you were able just to go and roam and like go make dens, climb trees, be outside all the time, whether or not it was playing football in the village, on the streets, and waiting for someone to yell car and like jump out of the way, or go and make dens, climb up trees. And I had like the freedom of doing that both with my dad in Milton Keynes and with my mum in a village. And that's kind of what I meant with being free. I just felt like I was able to do what I wanted, be outside, and there was no real, I don't know, worries or restrictions or whatever. I feel like that's changed a lot.
Yeah, definitely being able to enjoy being a kid is a big thing. A lot of people don't get to do that. How important do you think that is, to get to enjoy just a childhood, I guess?
Yeah, hugely important. I think, yeah, to have a proper childhood is how you develop, how you grow up, you know, like I think I was able to go and get scrapes, make mistakes, and I love that about it.
You said your parents separated when you were 6 years old. Do you remember how that impacted you, or did it always feel sort of normal that they weren't together?
For me, it was always normal. Like I grew up always thinking, "Oh, it's amazing! I get 2 Christmases, I get 2 birthdays." Like,
Did you really think that?
Yeah. Like and like I remember, because like it was before I really remember. To be honest, I vaguely remember the house we were in, but not really.
Yeah.
And then I used to get like double holidays, and like both my mum and my dad both loved traveling as well, which probably kind of gave me a part motivation to start doing that. But yeah, it was like, for me, it was great. I mean, looking back on it, there was definitely some troubles with that. I remember points where they were arguing, they didn't want to like talk to each other, and I'm sure somewhere deep in my psyche that has affected me. But when I actually think of my childhood, I don't think of that. I think of how nice it was to have 2 separate homes.
Yeah. Well, look, man, my parents are still together and they argue all the time. So, like, it's kind of normal, I think, even where people are still together. Like, I think people just argue a lot.
Yeah.
When you have that kind of proximity to one another. And, like, you said that it was normal to you, but did you look at other people who had, like, parents that were together and think anything about it? Or was it just, like...
No, not to be honest. I think like, I don't know if I just noticed this more, but I remember thinking like most people's parents are broke up when I was like in my teenage years. I think when I looked around, it seemed like most people were. I know I was a bit of a rat bag during school. I didn't... no teachers really liked me, I think.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. They always told me I had potential, but I never really like did much with it. I was always more about getting out of doing the work rather than doing the work, and coming up with clever ways not to do the work.
I'm exactly the same.
And I remember one thing I always used to do, which like I feel bad about now, was always say that, basically pull on the heartstrings of my parents are divorced and be like, oh, I left my homework at my dad's and I got changed to my mum's. It's not good, but yeah, I used to be like, oh, no, it's back at my dad's, so I can't see him for the next couple of days, so I can't give you my homework, or like vice versa, or whatever. That's
funny. Yeah, I used to do some dirty stuff. I used to do this thing where I'd send 3 blank. I'd go to the lesson. They'd be like, "Where's the homework?" I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I forgot to print it." I'd be like, "All right, send me it after the lesson." So I'd go home. And I'd wait for the start of the minute on the clock, and I'd send 3 blank emails in the same minute, and then I wouldn't see them for a week. And I'd go to the lesson, they'd be like, "It didn't work." And I'd be like, "Oh, IT's been playing up all week, you know, I'll sort it out." And then they just kind of forget about it. So
yeah, exactly.
It's a good move.
You do what you do.
You just do what you need to do. But yeah,
smart, not hard.
It is weird though. It is weird though, isn't it? Like the amount of effort you would put into not having to do something. Like, I wonder where that comes from, because most people go, it's just easy just to do the work.
Probably was
Yeah.
but I don't know. I feel like that's kind of still helped me later, because I try and figure out the laziest way to do something rather than actually doing it.
That's something you carried forward in your life now.
I think so. Like I still, I mean, I said earlier, like I work hard at things, but if I can figure out a way to do it quicker and easier next time, then that's something I would try and work on.
So so when you said, we're jumping into it kind of early, but it's not chronological. When you said that you want people to know that you work hard, do you think that's because you work smart? So you want people to understand that working smart is working hard, basically?
Yeah, maybe that's it. Like just because something like looks easy, or if let's say you did the homework, I don't know, 10 minutes before, or like you got an extension on it because you left it at another house or whatever. That's a smarter workaround, maybe.
I definitely think as well there's people out there that would kind of like put pressure on you because they don't perceive you as working hard, when it's like they just didn't figure out the smart way, potentially, as well.
Yeah, true.
If that's a component of it. So yes, it sounds like childhood was pretty good. Tell me a bit of your journey. So you're a kid, you go to school, you're in love with football. At what point do you sort of progress into another phase of life? How does that go for you?
So when I left school, it was the normal age, like after sixth form, I did sixth form up until I was like 18. Then the normal route for everyone at my school was basically we were all pressured to go to uni.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, facts.
It was either go to university or take a gap year and go to university. And that was kind of, I think everyone pretty much in my year did that. So I took the gap year and went away traveling. Obviously, I wasn't playing football at this point because I wanted to go and travel. I did it a little bit, but I'd already kind of accepted at that point that I wasn't going to make it pro or anything.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go away traveling for a year and then go to uni after. And so I did then. That was probably what separated my childhood into my adult life, I would say. I went to Thailand and did like the classic backpacker route of like Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. Basically, I was 18, spent about 4 months getting drunk and partying and like living as cheap as possible. Like I think I was trying to live off $20 a day and just like doing everything, dorms, backpacking, whatever.
Had you traveled before that at all?
Not really. I mean, I've been away with parents, and I've done like music festivals, and I'd been maybe I think Spain with a couple of mates, and that was it.
So
I've never
like that,
done like long haul travel on my own.
Can you describe that feeling to me?
Yeah, I guess it comes back to freedom again. It was marking my independence. It was becoming a person that was in charge of myself rather than living off of your parents or living with rules, or I was able to basically do whatever I wanted and discover things for myself, which was great. And that's one of the things I love about travel for people.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear a bit more about that first traveling experience, because obviously like that's the moment where you're doing what you do now for the first time. It must have just felt like because I can remember I was quite nervous about traveling and going away on my own when I was around that age. Like I found it quite a difficult idea. Yeah. So how did that trip go? Like what were the feelings you experienced during that trip? Was it just like, did you just throw yourself like head first into it? Were you nervous at all? Like how did you feel?
Well, I wasn't exactly on my own, because although I went out there on my own, we ended up meeting up with 9 of my other mates. Yeah. They'd all done the same thing.
Right, okay.
So I wasn't particularly nervous about that, because we were just a bunch of good friends traveling around, drinking together and partying. It was more like, to be honest, a big piss up around Southeast Asia than it was this like ethereal travel backpacking experience. Yeah. I think that was for the first 2 months anyway. And then I think in the third month is when I separated and did a bit on my own for a couple of weeks. And then that was probably more where I started to feel like, oh, this is actually what I wanted to do. This is like, I mean, I would love to be able to travel like this full time. Of course, as a like 18, 19-year-old, that's exactly what a lot of people want. Do no work, travel around, party, meet girls, do whatever. That's probably like a majority of 18-year-old guys. But I didn't think that was like possible at the time. I didn't think even that existed as a lifestyle. So I was like, I'd love to do this, but it's just a holiday. This is really what would want to do with my time, but let's go back to England and go back to uni.
Sure. I just wanted to ask quickly, you said you got that period where you went away and traveled by yourself. What do you get out of going and doing it on your own? Like, if you could compare it to like being in that big group of lads and then taking that time to go and do it by yourself.
I don't know. Trying to think back. It's just like,
or in general,
15
even
years ago now.
Yeah, or even in general, because I know there's a lot of people that will only go on holiday like with a partner or with a group of mates. But like, anytime you've gone away by yourself, can you explain like how the experience sort of differs?
I think you've got to be more open to people. I think you've got to be used to just walking up and saying, "Hey, hi, I'm Jordan." Like, be friends with me, basically.
Please.
Yeah. Or you're just going to be lonely and be on your own. So like, I mean, thankfully it's very easy when you're traveling around to go to hostels and meet people that way. You tend to meet people very quickly, but I do think you have to be willing to open up, and there is a sort of vulnerability about that being on your own. You have to, you have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to be careful and be safe. And I think maybe like, I don't remember having those fears, but I was 19. I thought I was invincible. I do just remember thinking like, this is such a great way to get out of your shell a bit and meet more people.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Why is it that, because I've had exactly the same thing. I came to Bali by myself. I met so many cool people. I'd spent the last 5 years before that in the UK making basically no new friends. And then I've made like, 50 new friends in like a few months or whatever it is. Or acquaintances mostly, a few of them are friends. But what is it about going and traveling that like gives you the ability to have like to adopt that like vulnerable mindset?
I think part of it is that there's lots of other people that have been through the same. They've all kind of come out traveling or come out here or wherever, and they've been through that, so they realize I don't know, they're more welcoming. They realize that you have to be more open and you have to make more friends. I think it's not just back in the UK, but I think wherever you're from, wherever you're living, people get very entrenched in their cliques and they get very like comfortable, and they don't really see making friends or meeting other people as a big priority. So I think it's partly that, and I think it's partly also that the people that travel are more likely to be open. They're the more open people.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's just got me thinking, like, is traveling a great remedy to loneliness? Because even though it would sound lonely going away by yourself, in theory to some people, one of the big things in the world right now is there's a lot of lonely people who are stuck by themselves. I'm just wondering if actually travel might be the best remedy to that in many ways.
I think for a lot of people, I think there's still people that would struggle with that. I know lots of people, I've always encouraged people to travel. And I know people that have done it and like gone to India as their first trip or whatever, and then just be like, no, this is not I'm out.
That's quite an intense one, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think there's still people that would struggle with it, but for a lot of people, I think it's a great solution.
Yeah.
Go put yourself out your comfort zone and you'll be surprised how easy it is to meet people.
Yeah. So you do this first trip. Where does life go from there?
Then I went back to uni. I went back and worked for a few months in Santander in the bank.
What were you studying?
Business management and IT.
Okay.
So, I mean, I basically just went to Nottingham because I'd heard it had a good ratio of women to men. I didn't really care that much about the course.
Fair. How did that go for you?
Yeah, it's all right. No, it was a good time. It was I personally wouldn't say that I got loads academically or business-wise like out of university. But that's not the reason I went. I thought it was great for like a party. I was kind of pressured to go there. I spent a good couple of years having fun. And although it was a fantastic experience, I don't think it's for everyone. I think it worked well for me because I was a bit shy before uni. I think uni helped me, along with the travel, to come out of my shell a bit. I think that's the part that I really took away from the uni experience rather than like the work side.
Yeah, I definitely think for me as well, I learned nothing, but basically, but I met, like, I'd say my people there for the first time. I have great friends from school too, but like just by and large, like the general vibe and culture, like I was in Manchester,
right,
and like it was just, I was actually quite scared at first. Like I was like, God, this is quite an intense city. Like I'd never lived in a city like that before. I'd been in the countryside my whole life basically, and I was like, wow, this is pretty intense. But like, yeah, I met my people there, and I definitely was like quite insecure still, but like I found a way to be in a social environment, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I agree with you. It's like it's a way to open up, but with training wheels. You know, you're still like I don't know. You're still in student housing. You've still got to do like some lessons and stuff. Things are quite easy, but you can live on your own independently and go out 5 times a week and make friends.
I was also the last year that was the $3,000 fees instead of the $9,000 ones. So
yeah, I think I was. Actually.
Were you as well?
Yeah.
I must be the same age. And so that was lucky, because I don't know if like what the experience we're talking about, like that you get from it now, is worth £9,000 a year. I'm not really sure. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of extortionate. So you do your degree, have some good times, and then how do you progress your life?
I then still figured, to be honest, that like I hadn't thought of travel as a career or anything yet at this point. I think straight after uni, I'd managed to save up a little bit of money, and me and my mates wanted to go and do something as a trip. So we had bikes and we cycled to Germany.
Oh, that's sick. How was that?
Yeah, it was me and 5 of my mates.
Did you train?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
How many miles a day were you doing?
We just started. I think it took us 3 weeks to go to Berlin.
I don't know if that's good or not.
Is Calais via Amsterdam. So we went up first.
Right.
Well, you got to go to Amsterdam.
Yeah. we weren't taking the direct route.
No. Went to Amsterdam, spent a few days there, and then got to Berlin a few weeks later.
Was it like a physically challenging thing to do, or was it not too bad?
The first couple of days are hard because like none of us had done any training. We were just like whatever I was, 22 at the time, overconfident. Like, it'll be fine. We'll get it done.
You heal fast when you're 22 at least. That's the difference.
Yeah, the first couple of days, the quads and the bum are in agony. But then a few days later, you just like you get up, you do it again, cycle for 8 hours, you keep going.
8 hours.
So it depends on the day. Like after Amsterdam, we weren't cycling 8 hours.
I wonder why.
But we were camping out as well, so we did it as cheap as possible, camp out, and this was kind of going to be like the last big trip we could do before we all stopped and got jobs, because these are all mates that I was at uni with as well.
Do you just find like campsites along the way when you're doing it, or how does
some
that work?
And like to save money, some wild camping.
Some wild camping as well.
Yeah,
what was that like?
I don't know what the rules are now for like France and Belgium, Germany, but yeah, I don't think we were allowed to. We just found random spots.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, it was good. Like it's actually, I'd recommend it to anyone. Like I love these kind of trips where you go overland and you spend a long time getting there. Like the payoff at the end is huge.
I bet. Yeah. So you do this trip, and what after that?
So that was actually the first time I picked up a camera to film anything.
Right. Okay. Tell me about that.
So that's kind of like why I start there. I just had this little camera that I'd bought, and I didn't plan to, but I was just getting video clips along the way. And then after the trip finished, I was like, try and make it into a video for my mates or whatever. So I remember just cutting together all the clips. It was like 480p footage or something. It was like really blurry, but put it all together and just put Red Hot Chili Peppers over the back. And I think it was Universally Speaking. And then like song. My mates loved it. So I was like, this is pretty cool, whatever. I made the video, but I really enjoyed it. I think it took me like 2 months to edit it, but I really enjoyed making that and then getting the payoff at the end. And then I didn't really think anything about it, to be honest. I just made that video as a bit of fun, probably put it up on Facebook at the time, and then got a job and settled down and started working for a year and a half.
So you do this trip and then you get a job. Do you have the bug at this point? Are you sort of like, or are you still just thinking this is a fun hobby to do in between earning money?
I think even before uni, like when I went on that first trip, that kind of gave me the bug for travel. And then when I did this trip again, that was just like still from that. It was just, where can I fit it in? Like, how can I go away for another trip? But I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew I wanted to be in business. Even going back before this, actually, like when I was like 13, 14, I was selling RuneScape currency online. So like I was literally like, I had a macro that ran overnight.
I remember RuneScape. I never played it, but I do remember the game. Yeah, I remember it existing.
It's like just one of the first like MMOs, one of the massive online games. You just had to click with a mouse and like mine ore or whatever. Yeah. So I'd just leave a macro overnight. This was when I was like 14, that recorded all your mouse strokes. And then I'd sell it on eBay the next day, and I'd make like 60 quid a night or something when I was like 14.
That's crazy.
But I'd spend it all on like CDs. I bought samurai swords. I basically just like bought everything off eBay. And I like my parents eventually
big eBay fan.
I got banned from eBay a few times as well.
Did you?
Yeah, because you're not allowed to sell other people's property, which is the game's currency.
Oh.
So that it was like, I think now it's fine.
Your order history must be wild.
Well, on that account. No, that's kind of like even, and I used to sell like gold bars and Pepsis in school as well out of my backpack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, gold bars.
you remember them?
Yeah,
I had them recently. They're still good, much
Right.
smaller now.
Fair. Yeah,
But,
they're good. I like them.
Yeah, so that was kind of like, even from then, I always knew I wanted to make money. I wanted to make money online, but maybe not online. I just wanted to start a business.
Yeah.
And that's why I did business at uni. And then after this trip, I was like, my kind of 5-year plan, I remember this, was to work in a company for 5 years, get some experience, get some money behind me, and then start a business.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was yet. I was just like, I'm going to save up, I'm going to work on something, and it will come to me. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then people were always asking me at the time, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I don't know. And they're like, but you need to decide. I was like, no, I want a business. Okay, what are you going to work on? I don't know. Like, and I still had no idea.
How did that, because that's something a lot of people struggle with. Did that bother you when people were asking and you were saying, I don't know? Or was it just like, you were sort of saying, leave me alone. I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, I think it bothered me at the time. I think that's just a very like old school view of things. It was like, no, you need one career. You need to be a doctor. You need to work on this. And even like the idea of working online was something crazy. This was what, 2012. I know there were people doing it at that point, but it still like wasn't very common.
No.
So that as a career was like, no, you need to come up with something else. So I went to work in a bank. I went to work in Santander as a project manager in IT. And it was all right, to be honest. I had like a decent wage for someone my age, and it was a decent job. And I just thought, I'm going to work this for a few years and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of like not what I'd been pressured into, but kind of what I thought was expected of me at the time.
Yeah, it's crazy when, definitely around that time for me also, your early 20s, mid 20s, there's this like pressure to follow convention, and like because everyone else is doing it as well, you don't want to be the one that gets it wrong.
Yeah,
and it's really scary, like that idea, even if there's something else that like, or maybe you don't even know what it is, but you just feel like it doesn't quite fit what you want or who you are. It's very difficult.
Well, I mean, yeah, like that was a pressure that I felt to go and earn money and to get a stable job and to do all of that stuff that you're expected to.
Yeah.
And so I did if I'm just like maybe jumping forward a bit, I did that for like a year and a half in this job. And I was basically making good money, but not really saving anything, just earning money during the week, Monday to Friday, spending it on the weekend, going out Friday, Saturday night.
On the treadmill.
Yeah, literally.
Or the hamster wheel.
The hamster wheel, yeah. Sunday hungover, back to work on Monday, and I was earning good money, but I still wasn't saving anything. And then I think about a year in, I kind of... Actually, interesting. This is where I did my knee, about a year in. So I was playing football at the time. And that was when I did my ACL the first time. And it completely snapped. I had to go through the reconstruction. And I was in bed for like 2 weeks after that. They take a piece of your hamstring and they feed it through where your ligament was. And then that becomes your ligament.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
You literally have your leg straight in bed for about a week. And then you just start bending it like that. And it's like one of the most painful things in the world.
So I'm going to assume that the replacement hamstring tendon is not as strong as the original one.
It's meant to be stronger,
right?
But then I snapped again, so I guess not.
Maybe not.
But yeah, so that was I was in bed for a couple of weeks, literally just watching YouTube, watching Netflix, and thinking, I don't want to go back to work. Like, what am I doing? Like,
did it take like a pause for you to realize how much you weren't enjoying it?
Yeah, I think that was it. I think that was the break where I just literally had my thoughts and YouTube, and I was watching all these people like Fun for Louie and like Ben Brown and like the like OG YouTubers. I guess this was 2013, 14, that were just traveling around, living this like amazing life, doing vlogs, like travel, and they could just go and do whatever they want.
So this is at the inception of it, really. This is when it really started, when people started doing the travel.
Yeah, I think so. This is when like PewDiePie was kicking off, and he was like the number one. He was doing like 2 or 3 videos a day, and people were like, "Wow, you can actually make money from YouTube."
Yeah.
So I remember watching that and thinking, "That's what I want to do," and then I thought about that video I'd made a year before. Like I'd made this travel video, and I was like, I could do this.
I could do that.
So
yeah.
I remember
yeah.
ordering a camera. I got one of those like Sony handheld camcorders because I thought that was the way to do it. I didn't realize that people actually had like point and shoot cameras instead. So I did one of these like proper old school like home video cameras to take around. And then I set a date for 6 months, which would be the end of my rehab and recovery, to quit my job, save up enough money to start traveling, and then leave. And that's kind of it. That was the decision made.
So you gave yourself like a target to work towards. It's interesting. So like, I wanted to ask you, because one of the big things I talk about in this podcast, and one of the big reasons I do it, is because I'm interested in people that have been able, and I use this phrase, able to live true to themselves. And it's so difficult because like some people are like, who am I? What do I want? What am I good at? What am I passionate about? And you're someone that's been able to do it. And so I want to ask you, mentally, what does it take to get to that place? It sounds like you had this moment with the injury, but was it literally just like, how do you hype yourself to that point where it's like, I'm going to quit my job? Was it the fact that you set a distant date to work towards and like save and all that sort of thing? Or how did it work for you, that process?
Well, I think like I always said to people, just set a date. Well, once you decide this, set a date and then do it no matter what, because you always invent excuses. And so I think true. Like people, as soon as you decide to do something, you have this amazing moment. And for about a day, I still get this all the time, where I think like, that's what I want to do, or I'm going to do this. And then in the meantime, like after that day or after that moment, you start thinking of all the reasons why it won't work and why you can't do that and all the other pressures, and it just eats into your conviction of doing it. So if you're going to go decide to quit your job and travel and whatever, set a date, book the flight, and then work towards it. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and that's what I did, and that's what worked for me.
Okay.
It was July 24th, 2014. That was the day I flew out of England. So,
do you remember the feeling you had like leaving that behind? Were you like nervous you'd made a mistake, or were you just all in like, this is a great decision?
No, I was nervous telling my dad.
What did he say? Say?
I was actually still living with him at the time because it was after my ACL recovery.
Right.
And he's always like, he's had a good career and a good life. He's worked in a lot of good jobs, but he's always had like a career.
Steady income.
And I remember just coming to him and saying, right, so I've quit my job and I'm going to travel, but I'm going to make a brand. That's kind of all I knew. And he was like, what? He's like, sure you are. I was like, all right, but if you're going backpacking, just remember, like, don't lose all your money, come back. And like, because that was his idea of it. It was like, I'm just going away backpacking again.
You're on a jolly,
like,
basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just going for it, which I mean, it was still like a lot of fun.
I didn't have a bad time.
Yeah, but his idea, and a lot of people was at the time was like, yeah, of course you are, whatever, and yeah, that was it. I think he only messaged me about a year later, or maybe it was even a year and a half later, after I'd started making it a bit successful. I remember him sending me an article saying, do you know YouTubers actually make money? I was like, yeah, funny that.
There's actually a reason I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So you go off on that trip. From there, tell me, when was the first time you started making money? How do you turn it into something that was a career from there?
I actually spent 6 months after that, just bouncing around again, traveling. I had this idea of making videos, but I wasn't really doing it.
Oh, really?
I just kind of took the camera around. I was getting lots of little clips, but I had this great idea of how I was going to do it. And then I just didn't set aside the time to edit and to make everything and do all of that. So I didn't have the dedication. I ended up filming a lot and then not doing a lot with it. I ran out of money about 9 months in. I had the Australian working holiday visa as a backup. I was actually in Bali at the time.
Right.
And I was minus £200 into my overdraft with the Australian holiday visa, and a flight to Perth was $40. So I hadn't made it work at all with YouTube, but I was like, I'm going to fly to Perth, work in a hostel, start again, and see what happens. So I did. I flew to Perth. I cleaned toilets for 3 hours a day.
You still had a contingency plan in place to continue the dream, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. I did. That was always the backup. It was kind of, the point was to travel for as long as we could. It was me and a mate at the time, and then end up in Australia and start the working holiday visa.
Right.
Yeah. I worked there for 6 months. I started off in a hostel. It was called Banjo's Backpackers, which is actually a really great hostel. But I was staying in a dorm room with 20 other people. while cleaning the toilets for 3 hours a day to be able to stay there for free while I looked for another job to save up money to then start travel and do all of that again.
Yeah.
So I'd basically, from deciding like a year ago that I hated, actually, sorry, one sec. The job I ended up getting was working for Chevron doing temporary office work.
Really?
Like literally it was $30 an hour. And I think it was 30 or $40 an hour.
Good back then as well.
Yeah, back then it was really good. And I was basically just taking data from a sheet, putting it into an Excel, putting it down. Like real, like boring stuff.
Yeah.
But it was enabling me to save up money so I could go and travel again. But I realized then, I was like, I basically just spent a year going from a job in an office to being back in a job in an office on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Pretty much in like another version of England, like Australia and England, compared to a lot of the world, they're pretty similar. So I was like, I'm not going to let this happen again. And that was kind of then my motivation to really push. So this time when I went away traveling and flew straight back to Bali, I did the Philippines and just spent time in the cheapest places to really make sure that I made it a success rather than wasting my money again.
What did being a success look like at that time?
Making money.
Making money, yeah.
Making it sustainable.
Yeah.
Actually turning it into an income and actually being able to. All I wanted to do, to be honest, was earn enough to be able to travel.
Yeah.
At the time, it was travel continuously. I wanted to be able to travel continuously. That was it. If I knew if I could make like $300 a month, then I could live in Goa or in India, or I could live in the Philippines or whatever. As long as I can do that, then that's fine. That was my only goal.
So how did you achieve that?
Just purely YouTube.
So tell me about that early journey. So like, how did you build this channel where you could post content and make money? Just tell me about it.
Yeah, I started at the time. Everyone was doing daily vlogs. Like that was the big thing, to vlog every single day of your life. You vlog during the day, you edit in the evening, and then upload the next day. I didn't quite do that, but I was doing a video every 2 days. Okay. So I was filming where I was, editing the next day, and then uploading. And I lived on that repeat for about 2 months. And my whole point of it was just like, follow me as I'm learning how to travel continuously.
Right.
So it was like, pardon me.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you want to do this thing, then this is how you can do it as well. Follow me trying to do it. And that sort of got people interested in it. And then I just made more videos.
Did that also, because I've had issues in my life of perfectionism. Did that also take the pressure off a little bit of it being like this perfect YouTube channel, like saying, look, I'm learning, watch me learn sort of thing?
I think anyone that creates stuff has problems with perfectionism. Like I think any video you ever make is never going to be perfect. So I think I just get it to like 80% and put it out. So by having a schedule of putting it, like I've got to do this every other day, then it just meant I need to get it to a point where it's good enough to put out and move on and never think about that video again.
Yeah.
So that was quite nice. That was quite nice in a way, because you don't end up like laboring over a video and worrying about if you could have done this better, because once it's out, it's done, you move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you remember the moment where you realized the channel started to get some money, and like, how did that feel? Because obviously it seems like this unattainable thing, making money from YouTube. Even though a lot of people do it now, it still sounds like kind of unrealistic. I mean, for me, it still sounds, I mean, obviously this is a new channel. I don't know if this is going to make money yet or not. When I think about the idea of this could make money for me, I'm like, I'd love that, but I can't imagine that happening. So how did it feel when you started getting money coming in?
Yeah, I remember I was really lucky. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months into this, I got a message from this guy in China saying that he was running a jiu-jitsu camp there, and would I want to come along and spend 2 months there living for free, learning jiu-jitsu, Chinese lessons every day, free food and board, and making videos about the jiu-jitsu camp. And so I was like, yes.
And this is so 100%. You're not making money from YouTube.
Not making money any money at this point. But this was a chance to go there and spend 2 months for free, like not having to spend any money while I could still work on YouTube. And that kind of gave me like time and breathing room to then make more videos. And then it was at that point where I also started making money. Right. So that was where everything kind of like clicked for me, because I was like, wow, I'm living for free. and I'm just started making money. This is kind of everything I wanted. I'm making money from making videos about something really cool that I want to do.
That's crazy.
I got to bring one of my best mates from home as well. Like he flew out to China.
I'd love to see some of those videos.
Yeah,
Are they good?
I almost got to a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Right, is that good? I don't know.
Blue belt normally takes about a year.
Okay.
So his whole thing was trying to do it within 3 months, and I was filming that possibility. Unfortunately, that camp doesn't run anymore.
Right.
Other things happened, but yeah, it was a great time.
Did you enjoy learning jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, it was great. It was like every day rolling on the mat like twice a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it was with one of my best mates from home that we spent like our childhood fighting in the garden with a trampoline and stuff, you know. And then we got to be in China doing this. And like, I mean, just being in China was a great experience for a bit. It was kind of where that was when it all clicked. I was like, that's when I started getting AdSense as well. I don't know what it was, like $200 a month or
Still,
something.
like, it's like something.
Yeah, for me, it was money coming in, which was great. And then I remember I had Patreon at the time as well. So then I had like people...
Still a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I was getting, I don't know, maybe I had 7,000 subscribers at this point. And I remember my whole thing was, as long as I can get 10 a day, then that's 300 a month, and I can just like do it that way. So I was just like, I just need to keep getting 10 new subscribers a day, or I need to get 20 new subscribers a day. And then the AdSense would roll on. That was when it started, and then things kind of just progressed. I had some more videos that did well, I had campaigns that did well, and yeah, it just got bigger.
Yeah. You've obviously had like a very varied experience of travel now. Can you give me some of the highlights? Because I know that from this point, you kind of gone to many countries and done many things. Tell me some of the best places you've been, maybe some of the places people wouldn't expect. I've gone through different stages of travel. Like I've done the whole backpacker thing for a long time. And then I started doing more like real off the beaten path places. So I had a series of videos that did pretty well from North Korea. I saw one of them. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I spent 4 days in North Korea, and that was with a company called Young Pioneer.
Right.
And they do tours all over the world. They're great. Like they basically just took me there, and I spent 3 days there exploring Pyongyang.
Were you afraid going to North Korea?
It's one that I didn't tell my parents about until I was just about to go in. You know, I was
so you know.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I should have done it the other way around. Like told them after I'm back. But like I was on the border of North Korea, and I was like, just so you know, I'm going to North Korea for a few days. And they were like, all right.
Hang on, wait.
I wouldn't say I was scared, because I'd known some other people that had done it already, and they just said it was fine. It was a really interesting experience. But I wasn't sure what I could say or do or what I could take in. So I was like hyper extra careful about what I'd say to the camera there, about the stuff I had on my hard drives or memory cards or whatever taking in there. I didn't take in anything really, like no movies on the laptop or whatever. And yeah, that was one thing I was concerned about. But it was fine. Like, I thought that going in. Actually, I was allowed to film and say whatever I wanted. On the way out, they didn't even check my camera or memory cards, nothing at all.
I guess that's because they knew where you were the entire time.
Probably because they had a camera on me.
Yeah. We know he's only got bollocks. And what would you say about it as an experience? I mean, obviously, there's so many things said about the country. No one really knows because we can't see anything that's going on. Like, I'm guessing you didn't see anything out of the kind of like, this is the prescribed tourist route that you take.
No, I mean, I was in Pyongyang, which is the capital, and it's where like the real political elite and rich people of North Korea live.
Right.
So most people there seemed pretty happy and okay. Some people have asked me before, like, do they look like paid actors? No, they just look like normal people doing their life, but on pretty well-off jobs, and they're quite like comfortable. They're in Kim Jong-un's elite. I think if I was able to go out into the more of the countryside and see all the real problems, that would be very
a bit
different.
Yeah,
but obviously they're not going to let you do that.
No. Well, that's interesting. And so yeah, where else? So North Korea was a big one.
Yeah, so I did like a year of just going all over these random places. To be honest, so I did Chernobyl and Ukraine before the war. So Chernobyl, like where the meltdown was, that was really interesting to see. I was in. I think we went from there to Kazakhstan. Went to Transnistria, which is this like disputed country between Moldova and Ukraine.
Really?
They're still Soviet.
Gosh, I wonder where they sit now.
Yeah, I think they were early days of the war, but I think they were part of it. Yeah, like that was interesting. Went to Ethiopia and traveled there for a couple of weeks. Togo, I went to film a football camp in Togo in West Africa. That was like for an NGO, for a volunteer thing. This guy was helping kids try and do something with their lives through football rather than going to crime or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was a nice part of the YouTube channel, because then I got to go and film, and that was it was good, because now I knew from the early days of I'm just trying to survive and make a couple $100 a month. Now I was able to go to all these like far-flung places and make it make sense, because I could go and make the videos and then get the money back in AdSense.
Yeah.
I could go and make more interesting videos and go to the places I really wanted to do.
It's like an investment, basically.
Yeah, just from YouTube.
That's amazing. I want to ask you about some of the questions we worked through in relation to this journey so far. So you've obviously come a long way. You still travel now. That's still your thing. I know you have other things to do, and I'll definitely ask you about those as well. But I asked you about romantic relationships, and you said freedom and stability. I'm guessing because like the freedom is you can travel with someone. The stability is you've got something that's actually a thing that's yours. That's a relationship that exists with the history that's in a new place every time you move. But can you tell me about that? Because it sounds like it'd be really difficult to have a romantic relationship long term anyway when you're moving around that much.
Yeah, I think just like that's what came to my head first. And I think thinking about it more now, I think I mean that you're free enough to be yourselves and grow and change, but then stable and secure enough to still, well, I mean, not stay together for the sake of it. I wouldn't want that, but to change together.
Yeah.
And to have the security of being with each other but changing together.
Yeah.
I don't know, like just talking about it now, but maybe then that does come from my childhood, where like I feel like most people in a long enough marriage grow apart and become different people.
Yeah.
So I think having a great relationship would be having the freedom to grow and change together.
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of travel, because then someone that's open and free enough to travel and go to like all of these like crazy places, be challenged by it, be open to new experiences, and not shut out that part of the world.
Yeah. And how has that gone for you in terms of your history dating? Like, you've done this much traveling. How do you date when you're traveling that much, I guess is the question. It's
quite intense,
Yeah.
because if you really like someone and you want to have a relationship, then you pretty much need to travel with them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's two ways of doing it. If you're on the road all of the time, then obviously it makes sense to travel with your partner, and that's the way I've done it in the past. And then if you have a base, then of course you can just go on trips and then come back, and that's more like a normal relationship.
Long distance
might
sort
be,
of thing.
yeah, long distance kind of thing.
Have you done some long distance relationships?
Briefly,
Yeah.
not for a long time. I've done long distance where like it was an end in sight, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's what worked for me. It was long distance for like maybe 6 months or a few months, and then I knew there was an end to it, so you can kind of keep it up. I think keeping a long distance up indefinitely would be very hard.
It sounds like you've always been good at setting like I will do this on this date sort of thing. Like you've always been good at setting like launch dates for things, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Relationship launch. Soft opening.
Yeah, soft opening, exactly. Hopefully not though, in other ways. And I wanted to ask about, you said you won't accept from people around you as lying and lies. When you travel, you meet people that are typically more open, I suppose. So when you speak about that, is there something in specific you're referring to, or is there an experience you've had with that kind of made you say that?
I don't think so. I think I always remember having like a high sense of justice, even when I was like a kid or a teenager.
Yeah.
I remember if someone accused me of doing something that I hadn't done, it was like the worst thing
Really?
in the world. Like, yeah, for me, I don't know, my blood would boil. And I think, yeah, that comes from, I don't know, the dishonesty, or the people like lying or not telling the truth. I don't know if it's a projection. I always feel like I always want to tell the truth, and I think it's easier. I think it's better just to be honest. So when other people don't, I feel like they've let me down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from for me. Like, lying is like the easiest thing to do in the world, but it creates all the problems.
Yeah, that's facts. they often say, often the things we dislike the most are the things that, because within ourselves, we don't like that about ourselves potentially.
Yeah.
Not to say you're a liar.
No, I know.
But maybe that's like you just articulated, perhaps you have a fear of being a liar, or maybe you have lied and you didn't like how it felt or something. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's true. It's probably it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that is it. But yeah, for me, that's just like, that's number one.
Yeah. I want to get to this lowest moment. You said the last couple of years, there's been some really low moments. I mean, the journey you're describing sounds like a completely upward trajectory. So it's good to hear that, like, it's not all plain sailing, even when you're doing something you love. So can you tell me about that?
I think it was the first time out of all of the time I've been doing this that I didn't really have a direction in what I wanted to do. Obviously, COVID was in 2020. That was a big reset, a big time out, and it kind of interrupted what I was doing. I then was fortunate or unfortunate enough, depending on your perspective, to get into crypto at a decent time. I made a lot of money for me, relatively at that time. And I then stopped doing all of the other YouTube stuff, stopped doing anything else I was doing, and just focused purely on crypto.
Right.
And I did that for about a year, just trading, not really creating any content or whatever.
Was the focus switch because you were making a lot of money, or was it because you enjoyed it? Like, what was behind the focus switch?
I think it was both. It was like the endorphin rush of making money and having all this money I'd never seen before. And
the old gambler's mindset.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And like living in a cycle of like boom and bust. And it's a real addictive thing. So I made a lot with that, and then basically just lived off of that and stopped doing all of YouTube, stopped really creating anything, and just really being focused on the money part of it. And that didn't really give me, I thought it was at the time, but that didn't really give me much happiness, didn't really give me much satisfaction. I was just doing that and bouncing around, and that was never really what I cared about. Let's say early days of YouTube and everything, it wasn't about making money, it was about travel, and it was about sharing that experience. And this just became purely about money, and I think I became pretty unhappy because of it. I had no real direction anymore after that. Then to compound that, a couple of other things happened in those couple of years. I lost my grandparents, my girlfriend lost her dad, and it's just it's been a lot of things over the last couple of years have made it quite difficult.
So you're going through some of those things now, I'm guessing, or is it how you kind of through all that now, or where are you at with it all?
Yeah, I mean, parts of it are still going on, but I feel like I've come through the other side for my personal side of things. I think there's I'm happier that I'm working on stuff again. I'm happier I'm creating stuff.
So,
and it's not like it's a woe is me thing. Obviously everyone goes through difficult periods or whatever. It's just that for me, after having such a clear idea of what I wanted to do from my 20s, I reached a point where I've got no idea what I want to do, and I'm not happy with what I'm doing.
No, and I asked because I've changed what I'm doing many times, and maybe too quickly at times. But I wanted to ask you about that because it's the ability to realize that something you've put a lot of time and effort into isn't for you anymore. I mean, that's pretty scary because you've invested in something heavily, and you're almost angry at yourself that you don't want to do it anymore because you're like, why can't I just want this? Because it'd be so much easier. I personally have had a bit of self-loathing around stuff like that because I'm like, this is on the way and I just don't like it anymore.
Yeah, I get that.
So how do you manage yourself in that process, and what does the future look like for you coming up? What are you planning?
I think I still have a fair bit of shiny object syndrome, like I always have. That's why the YouTube channel worked well for me, and why I'm still doing it now again, because it was always my life. It was the life of Jord. So it was whatever I get interested in.
That's the channel name, by the way, Life of Jord. Links in the description for the 50 people that watch this.
Yeah, but it was that was... I remember someone saying to me 5 or 6 years ago that you can't stick at things, and you finish them, you don't finish them, or you stop them as they're getting started. And that's why I was like, yeah, actually, to be fair, the Life of Jord's a good idea, because then whatever I get interested in, it's still under the same banner.
Good branding, yeah.
I can just do it on that.
Anticipating my own changeability, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm working on a few different things now, and I'm just kind of pursuing what interests me. Because like you said, I mean, I do find it hard to just work on the thing I know I should be doing if it's not giving me satisfaction. So now I'm working on things that I just really want to do.
Can you tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, so like right now I'm going back into the YouTube channel like pretty hard because it's a big goal, but I want to go to every country and space. And I want to
and space. The way you phrased that sounded so funny. Every country and also space. And also space.
Yeah, space.
Which is not a country.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to every country. I never kind of put it as like my main goal. And then I was like, well, space is also possible. And like in 10 years' time, it's probably even more possible.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't think I will be the first because there's probably other people that have already been to every country. They've got a ticket to space. But I was like, I could be the first person to go to every country in space.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that as a long-term goal. And that's something I want to do with my life. And that's something I can then show on my YouTube channel. And it kind of gives me enjoyment as well. I can make money by showing something that I really want to do.
Yeah. When you're mentally at your best, what do you think the common themes in your life are? Is goals a big part of that? Can you describe how you think you are when you're at how your life is when you're at your best? Sort of.
Yeah.
Everything?
I think I'm at my best when I have a goal and when I'm working towards it.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at being very idle. So I think like, if I'm taking, I feel like I used to be able to travel and take a couple of weeks to myself. Now I really struggle with that. I can travel, but as long as I'm working on something as well. So I feel like I need to be working towards something, and that's the only way I feel satisfied.
Is that the working hard bit? You know, that you want people to know you work hard?
I think so. I think like, because I guess you could have the persona of just dossing around with your life if all you do is travel and spend time on beaches and whatever. So I want people to know that that's not what drives me. I like working hard and I get more satisfaction out of that.
Yeah. And you were talking before about the impact, what you see the impact of what you do being encouraging people to travel and stepping outside of their comfort zone. Is there always going to be an undertone of that in the things that you do? Is that like a conscious thing that you want people to get out of your content?
I think because it helped so much for me. I think I was very shy before. I think I was insecure. I think by stepping out of my comfort zone and I don't know, just having like a whole new experience of travel, that gave me a lot more confidence in life. And I think because that worked well for me, I think it could also work well for a lot of other people.
Yeah. I want to ask you about that. Something that is a big part of why I'm here doing this is understanding that sort of self-reflective process for people. How do people look at themselves and realize what they need to do to improve themselves or to get themselves into a happier place? You've just said that you were shy, you were underconfident, and travel's given you so much. Was that a conscious thing, or have you sort of figured yourself out just by doing?
I think I've put myself under pressure to build that on that part of me, because I always felt like I was insecure and shy in social situations, and I still have that sometimes. So I definitely put myself under pressure to try and I don't know, get rid isn't the right word, but get rid of that part of me through travel and through having new experiences. I think it's just something that also happens by growing as well and by getting older. They say like that, but when I started traveling properly I was like 23, so they say the age between like 18 and 21 of that age is when you're most insecure as a man anyway.
Facts.
So it's probably good timing, but like it definitely helped me as well.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Let's go through the rest of these answers that you gave me. So the change you'd like to see in the world, it's always a massive question, and it's something that's it sounds a bit cliche and a bit cringe, to be honest, but I think it's really helpful in understanding like what we might like to do with our own lives, because it gives you that sense of purpose. It's the whole ikigai Japanese thing. I don't know if you know about it, but something I've looked at and it's helped me a bit. So you said more openness and honesty, less constrictions, just in general. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it feels a bit like overarching to be like, get rid of all borders. but, like that, I guess that's kind of where that came from.
Kind of vibe, yeah.
Because most of the problems in the world come from like again, from not talking to one another,
Yeah.
from not having relationships between two countries, from like years of oppression, of years of like embargoes or whatever. That's where all of the problems come from. So having more openness and having like a one world would solve most of those problems. I know it's not realistic, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's the change you'd like to see.
Yeah.
Do you have any perspective on that issue of lack of communication and dialogue, and do you have any perspective on any of that kind of stuff? Because it's obviously like in day-to-day life, it's a really hot topic. It's like the reason people fall out. It's the reason people don't get on, not understanding one another. You've met so many people from so many different countries all over the world. What have you learned about, I guess, communication from those experiences?
Well, actually, so my girlfriend now, like, she always says that I want to talk about everything. And I do. Like, I'm quite open. Like, I do want to talk. If there's a problem, I want to talk it through. I think I get that from my mum, but also I think we're quite repressed in that way in England. I don't think, like, a lot of English people are very open when it comes to their feelings and talking about things.
Definitely.
So I think from meeting a lot of other people from different cultures and from, from meeting more soft culture people that talk about everything, it's encouraged me to be that way as well.
Yeah. And the benefit is we can all get on, right?
Yeah, of course. Like the more, this is very Stephen Gerrard then. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I think, if you talk about things, then things usually get resolved. If you bottle them up and don't talk about them, then they usually become into a bigger problem. Whether or not that's just like me and you chatting about things, or whether or not that's like North and South Korea chatting about things, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and a lot of times as well, like something I've had to learn over the years is that a lot of times talking doesn't necessarily mean finding a resolution for the other person. It's just letting someone vent and not trying to help them, and because you're helping them just by like listening, essentially.
Completely. That's something I've learned more about this year while dealing with grief. Is it's not purely. I mean, guys, we always want to try and fix
we want to
something.
fix stuff. We do is I'm exactly the same. It's so hard.
Tells you your problem, and you're like, okay, so what you should do is, and that's the last thing they want to hear.
And they're like, shut your mouth. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, there's like, it actually helped for listening to a few podcasts about this actually. And the guy on there said that people that have been in the army or dealt with PTSD are usually the best listeners for this sort of thing, because they're just like, go on, carry on talking, go on. They just want to be there in the shit with you. You just want to sit there and listen to your problems without even offering a solution, because there isn't any.
Yeah.
Just sit and listen and be like, yeah, I'm here in the shit. I get it.
It's kind of like, it just reminded me of something very, I did theology as my undergraduate degree.
Right.
And there's this concept in the Holocaust of God the Mother, where a lot of the survivors felt like there was this sort of higher being or presence like suffering through it with them, which is why a lot of them have their faith still after having survived it. It's quite a fascinating concept, but it's that idea of just of shared suffering. Like I know what you're experiencing. I can't help you, but I'm here with you. I know about it. Yeah. It's like almost enough in a way.
Yeah, completely. No, I didn't know that, but not necessarily even I understand it, because maybe you don't understand that, but just being like, I'm here.
Yeah, deep stuff. Most frequent like, subscribe videos. More videos are coming. Are more videos coming, Jordy?
Yeah, no, I guess I didn't know what to say at that point.
You don't lie. That's good. Honest guy.
Yeah, like I guess that also comes from the fact that I feel like I haven't been doing enough with that. Yeah. So the lie is the lie that I'm telling myself.
You're lying to yourself.
It. But yeah, no, that's the plan. I'm put out a video this morning. I'm making more videos now. I'm going to a bunch of new countries next year. Pardon me.
Yeah, all good.
I'll go again.
Yeah. You're going to a bunch of new countries next year.
So yeah, I'm going to a bunch of new countries next year. I'm going to South America that I haven't really visited yet. So I'm going to go make videos from Argentina and Uruguay and hopefully Antarctica.
Antarctica as well.
That's the plan. And go and get back to what I really enjoyed doing, making videos in my own way about the next part of the journey, which is hopefully going to every country and space.
You're going to need a few different wardrobes.
Yeah, for that. Well,
for space as well.
Yeah, like Antarctica, maybe we'll see.
Excellent. there's I don't even know if I'm going to use these, but I've been putting this in a few of the last episodes. So I've got this wall behind me in my studio, as you can see, and every image and item on here has some sort of personal meaning to me. We've had a couple taken already, so I'll let you know if the one you pick has already been spoken about. But you can ask me about it, and I'll tell you the sort of relevance to my life. It's part of my commitment to being an open person as I do these interviews, to kind of pay back my guests for being so open with me. So feel free to choose something, and I'll tell you if it's been picked already. I can't remember exactly.
Well, I'm going to guess. I would go for the autoglass Chelsea shirt at the top. Has it been picked?
No, it hasn't.
Okay, nice.
So I think that picture's funny actually, because it's me. I've got bleached blonde hair. There has been bleach has been put in my hair in that photo, and I think we were on holiday in like Devon or somewhere like that with my family, and it's a funny picture to me because one, it portrays one of my early loves, which is Chelsea Football Club, as you can see, Super Frank Lampard right in the middle of the wall there. But also it reminds me of just what a moody little shit I was when I was a kid, basically. Like, I mean, I remember that photo being taken vaguely, and I just was in a bad mood all the time, and I don't know why, but I was a moody kid, and I was I can remember going. I remember my first girlfriend when I was like 10 or 11 years old. I had this girlfriend. She was my kickboxing instructor's daughter, and probably not the best person's daughter today. But anyway, I was dating her, and I remember this is so cringe. We went on a holiday to Dumfries and Galloway in Scotland, because I grew up in Scotland. And I remember I was listening to "Cleaning Out My Closet" by Eminem on like a CD player like the whole trip, and I was like so moody and just like not good to be around. And I remember I bought her this. My sisters always destroy me for this, but I bought her like a present. It was like this necklace, but it was the ugliest necklace. It was this little like pewter, like twisted heart thing. It was horrific. Like
That's the thought that counts.
Bro, my sisters kill me about it now. Still, it's so funny. But yeah, that photo just reminds me of being a kid, going on these little trips. But I just remember, I was never enjoying myself. I was so I've said it many times on this, but I was just anxious. I was anxious, and I just didn't feel very like. Literally what you've been talking about today is so enjoyable for me to hear, because I was not a mentally free kid. I was scared. Like 18 years old, I would have been really scared to go and travel. Like, I know you weren't by yourself when you got there, but even that, like meeting friends there, I would have still been super nervous. I don't know what it was about me, but I was very risk adverse, and I was just like a very nervous person. So yeah, that's kind of what that reminds me of. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said there as well that you were, how old were you?
I must have been about 8, 9.
Hey, okay, you look older.
Do you think? I don't know, maybe I was older. 11 maybe, I'm not sure. I looked young for my age though, I always have. So yeah, I might have been 9 or 10. I don't remember, but yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, because I remember being very moody as well, and like angry at certain parts of my teenage years especially.
Yeah.
And like, I remember being 13 and like being like proper angry on my birthday. We were at TGI Fridays, and I was just pissed off that I was there, and I hated this.
Yeah, like why? I don't know why.
I don't know. And then you look back on it and cringe and think, oh god, that was awful. But I think if you don't look back on that time and cringe, then either you were perfect or there's something wrong.
That's true. But the thing is, like, I do think I'd like to have a family one day, and I just sort of think, like, God, my poor parents, like, they did a pretty good job, and like, I don't really know why I was being such a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we all are, and you probably have that to deal with as well.
Well, that's the thing. So at least I'll remember that I was like that also. It doesn't mean a lot, because you get older and you're like, oh, I don't know why I was doing that.
Yeah.
But
be like, one day you'll apologize to me.
Yeah. Listen, Jordy, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me. It's been great chatting, and I hope that people will get something out of this. Maybe go and do some traveling.
Cheers. Yeah, no, it's been great. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Good stuff.
Yeah, cheers.